All right. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Money Wisdom Podcast, powered by Johnson Brunetti. My name is Nick Colantuono. I'm a certified financial planner up here in our Boston office. And joining us today is my bearded brethren, my colleague, Jake Dozer, down in our Connecticut office. Jake, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. You know, you've got a beard too, and it is quite on point. Mine's a little bit fuller, yours a little bit more polished. Maybe that's indicative of us as people. I think that's true. Uh, but no, I'm looking forward to the podcast. My name is Jake Dozer. I'm one of the 16 advisors with Johnson Brunetti, right here in the trenches with Nick. I'm in the Connecticut locations. He's up in Mass. You guys have had a lot of exciting stuff going on up there. You've got new offices and stuff located, right?
Yeah, we have. We're growing like crazy, Jake. So we're building a quite the team up here. I think back when I started, I don't know, 6 years ago, it was only two of us, and now we're up to about 11, 12 people. We opened our fourth office last year. We're looking at doing another office or two over the next couple. So a lot of folks up here that we can help. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Well, good. Well, I know that we've got some questions ahead of us today. We're continuing our sort of mailbag series where we're talking about questions that people have sent in who are interested in, different facets of retirement. Now, I will mention that I think this is a great opportunity to share with people is that this is a channel, both video and audio, where we're going to be coming out with this stuff about once a week. And so if that's something that you want to stay abreast on, be sure to like our page, be sure to subscribe, share it with somebody that would find it helpful. And you can find this information and more in our show notes, along with resources about the topics that we cover. With that being said, the question we have in front of us today is this. I just got a letter, and this sounds so familiar. I hear it a lot. I just got a letter from about an old 401k from a previous job that I left more than 20 years ago. The writer says, I am embarrassed to admit that I'd forgotten this account even existed. They're saying that the 401k plan is moving to a different platform. What, if anything, should I do about this? Nick, what do we do? What did this person do?
Well, Jake, there's nothing better than found money.
Yes.
Right. I mean, but joking aside, I mean, we hear this all the time, which is why I always tell people Rule 101, when you leave an employer, take your money with you.
Yeah.
There are so many almost horror stories I can tell, not just like this, where someone forgets about this money and maybe it's been, sitting in a fixed interest account for the last 30 years because they never made a decision on it, or, who knows? Like the writer here says, their old employer is actually moving that old 401k to a different platform. I actually met with a woman and they had moved her old plan like 3 or 4 times over the 20 or 30 year period. And she's like, she just had no clue where the money was. And, it's not an uncommon thing, especially if, you maybe worked for a company maybe for 6 or so months or something like that. But, there are situations where it's much more extensive than that. And it could be tons of, tens of thousands of dollars, if not, hundreds of thousands of dollars in these accounts that people just forgot about it. So as far as this writer's question, what, if anything, should I do about it? You should take that money with you, right? Yeah. And the way to do that is you establish what's called a rollover IRA. That 401k money can be moved or, rolled over into that IRA, and it's not a taxable event. And in most cases, it doesn't cost them anything. But the difference is now that money is in your name, under your control. It's no longer affiliated with this employer that you haven't even been associated with for, the last 10 or 15 or 20 years. So again, IRAs versus 401ks, when an opportunity like this arises where your plan is making a change, moving from one provider to another, typically that's an invitation for you to then be able to have a lot more control and flexibility over that money by rolling it to an IRA.
Yeah, and that's almost always the move that people need to enact. I think some of the pitfalls people need to realize is that other than just losing track of it, you have to think about the implications of leaving your money there. So number one, Nick, to your point, what if it's sitting in a fixed account? Somebody says, well, isn't my employer paying the 401k provider to manage my money? No, your employer is paying your 401k provider to custody or hold your money. Their duty to you is not management. Their duty is holding your money. Your choices are the investments, which means that there's no obligation there for them to choose one fund or another. No, that they leave that up to you. That's why they did away with pensions years ago for the most part, is because they don't want the burden of that. They don't want the cost of that, the administrative headache. They want to give you that burden. The second thing is that 401ks, and this isn't a huge deal because of the balance, but if your balance in your 401k from this old job is less than $5,000, by law, they can kick you out. That means they can say, look, here's your letter. Within 30 days, if you don't get that money out, we're going to force you to take a withdrawal. Well, if you're under 59 and a half, that event was taxable and it incurred a 10% penalty, and they're allowed to do it because it costs them money to keep you on their platform. So they don't really, once you're left, they don't want you to keep your money there. So really both you and them are going to benefit from moving your money. And then finally, 401ks are just limited in their scope of choices. It doesn't mean that 401ks are bad investment vehicles. It just means that the scope of them are small. So if you've left an employer and you said to me, hey, I want to diversify my assets, well, having all your money in one or two funds in your 401k certainly doesn't align with the idea of diversifying or spreading your risk out. I think that those and more are things people need to seriously consider. And in short, more often than not, the advice is move it to an IRA. But I think we've got a great resource to help guide people through those things and more about 401ks. Eric, one of the senior partners at our firm, has written a book years ago called The Ultimate 401k Guide. And we can get that in your hands if you're listening or watching today. If you text the word guide, GUIDE, to our number, 800-757-0436. That information is in our show notes below as well. But if you text that number, to text that word guide rather to 800-757-0436. We'll send you Eric's ultimate 401k guide that'll talk about the pros and cons, talk about the pitfalls and benefits of moving that money, and guide you, no pun intended, through that process. Nick, what other things do people need to be thinking about when they're thinking about old 401ks, when they're thinking about 401k versus IRA, et cetera?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Eric's book is a fantastic resource. As you mentioned, it doesn't only talk about the reasons you would move the money, it also shines light on some of the reasons why you might not move that money. So let's kind of focus on that, right? We can't just talk about the good things. Let's talk about, some 401ks have some pretty high yielding fixed interest accounts.
Yeah.
Now, I got to be careful when I say that because most actually don't. But if there's an event where you've got money with a previous employer and for some reason that employer just has a very attractive fixed interest option, maybe it makes sense to leave it there, right? If part of your plan is going to incorporate having safe money anyway, well, 401ks, given that money goes, kind of up and down every day, or it's in these fund type vehicles. I mean, there's good liquidity there. You can take loans off of a 401k, which you can't take a loan from an IRA. So if you need to get your hands on some money in a pinch, it does give you some flexibility in that sense. But where 401ks really lack flexibility, as you mentioned, Jake, it's with the options, with the scope of what you can get access to in that plan. So as far as leaving money there, there's really got to be some compelling reasons to do it. Maybe you need, to be able to get your hands on some money and you're not yet 59 and a half. And, you don't want to pay the taxes by taking it out of an IRA. So you could take a loan off the 401k. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
And other than that, if there's just a really powerful, fixed account option, right now we see money markets at about 4.5%, 4.75%. But if for some reason your old employer is paying you 6 on that money, then take the 6. So again, it all just really, you have to do a deeper dive to be able to see if that's truly the best thing for you.
Yeah. And the two other things really quickly I think about that could be a reason to leave a 401k. Beyond the two you mentioned is maybe you're going to work past age 73. And I know we're segueing away from old 401ks now, but if you're working past age 73 and you have a 401k at your current job, keeping it there might be of benefit because when you have a workplace plan at a job you're still working at and you're past that age, which is the required minimum distribution, RMD age, you don't have to take RMDs on that account most times. And then the final thing is if you work for a company and you have a lot of stock in that company. So like I'm thinking in the state of Connecticut, Raytheon Technologies, RTX is a common one where we see this. Maybe you have stock for a long time and you're in that 401k. There may be some compelling tax reasons to leave it there. But again, we've covered 4 reasons, and really anything outside of that, moving your money out of your 401k to your IRA is the way to go. So With that being said, I hope that is helpful. Again, reach out and find that information below if getting the Ultimate 401k guide would be of benefit. Otherwise, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time on the Money Wisdom Podcast powered by Johnson Brunetti.
Investment advisory services offered through JB Capital LLC. Insurance products offered through JN Financial LLC.